in terms of going out to the cathedral next week, we hope. And I am pointing a focus, which you might not want to do, but I find very helpful, and it's offered almost always by garden situations, whether it's River Farm or the cathedral gardens spaces, which is using some of the architectural walls, paths, hardscape, a word I love to use because I learned it a year ago, and now I use it every day. So using the hardscape and the ways in which to use it, both to focus, to direct your eye, to provide contrast, to provide something kind of architectural and linear, which is a foil for gardeny, floral, bushy, whatever. And if you just sort of turn your eye to that, and again, you do not have to. Nobody has to do bricks. Nobody has to do walls. Nobody has to do paths. But I'm talking about this as a way, and a way I like personally. I have examples up here. Some old demonstrations that I did with brick, floral, in front of it, other kinds of brick and methods of doing brick. There's a little cathedral thing, which is a negative painting, just painting into the shadowed areas. But those are different approaches. So we can sort of look at all of that. And specifically, I wanted to, if you want to look, gather over here for a second. This is right down on Union Street. It's just a little wall and a wall where a shadow was falling. And I guess I took a picture because I have this. Now, if you can say it's neat, but somebody else might say, so what is that? It's just a boring brick wall. But I found, it gave me, right, it's a Demuth. Well, Demuth's architectural things, by the way, which we rarely talk about, are another, but it's an interesting extension of his directional thing. As I just did this mainly to just talk about how you can do brick in different ways, things started revealing themselves. And this is my theory. Maybe I'm the only one who subscribes to this theory, but that as you look, you see. And as I looked, things revealed that were kind of thematic and also very revealing of the particular setting, the light source, etc. The shadow that falls over here from an unseen tree, wonderful deep shadows that fall in here, shadows here. And suddenly I found, it may not end up as everybody's favorite painting, or even anybody's favorite, but I found that all the things led to a common vision of this little brick corner. This, which looks like a great clump of dull, dead nothing, is so informational with the vanishing perspective in it, and the change in size, the change in the coloration as it's nearer to you and farther from it. It becomes a very eloquent motif. And all of these you can also, when you're playing with this, whether you were outside and sitting, say you were sitting here and this was a garden view, you can distort, eliminate, add, whatever. But I found that suddenly just a very, very interesting thing, and it leads me in here. And everything says something about the sun, where it's coming from, the quality. You as you build these things up, particularly light, and light as it's revealed by shadows and source, telling you source, is just big, interesting information for anybody, and often it is what you want to emphasize. So it's something that when you're in the real situation, you may not have. It may be a cloudy day, it may be very flat light, but pick up on those things. Pick up on what you can use that's there. If you get this gratifying, tree shadow, and then this, which supports it, and this, which supports it more, it all is part of a whole, and it is a part of a scene that you're part of doing. And if you want to, of course, commit these shadows or whatever if you're outside painting directly. Whereas here, not a problem. You have this. So I tried to just pick up and develop, and I said, as I did this, what can you remove, condense, change from your photo to your painting? And then how to use the hardscape. Perspective and clues in the slant of bricks, these. Just that's, again, classic. Slant of bricks or architectural levels, and use that information so that it gives you a complete story.
Wow.
Then I happen to love painting brick. I just think it's fun. And I know some other people in this class who love painting brick and paint it beautifully. I brought in Paul Hogarth, who did a whole thing of Old Town and in the district, here's St. John's Church, who's a lovely example of a very fresh, easy, informational painter. Many of you know Peter Ulrich, and you may have studied with him. But there are different ways of approaching this, and different.
That is such a charming little sort of vignette. Are you tempted to finish it? Because sometimes I think it's so sort of light and lovely now. I wonder how it would. I wonder if you finished it, if you put that shrub on the other side,
here's the
it
shrub.
would kind of become more traditional, more prosaic.
Yes, it would become more traditional.
Something that
It will
is
come.
not
It'll
as
be
charming.
and it will define the edges, everything like you're saying, absolutely. And it might not be so charming. So at this point, is it a sketch or what? But absolutely, every one of those things is so true. Bringing me to the second side of this, Emily has segued into self-critique, and I just love this William Blake quote, which you can see at the top, when he says, "Let a man who has made a drawing go on, and he will produce a picture or a painting. But if he chooses to leave it before he has spoiled it, he will do a better thing." Hello. Everything that you do when you say, "Oh, have I gone too far? Am I going too far?" Anything you do further is a change. And you just have to accept that. You may lose something, you have to retain it. You may just say, "I'll do another painting later." But when this is a consistent thing, then you start thinking, is this my style back then? Self-critique. Thinking about every one of these things leads you to what is my statement, but where do I want to come down on this? Am I emphasizing the architecture?
Do you always know that?
I don't think you always do. I mean, I think you do know kind of you probably have a sense of where each piece and whatever you paint falls within the context of your work, your and you probably think, this is one of my series of things.
But maybe you're also saying to be open. So if you start with one concept and you're painting it, and you begin to see something else emerge, sort of, so that also is a possibility.
Yes, I think you should. I mean, I think no matter how finished, polished, professional, or whatever one is, you're always pushing and seeking, and you should always be open to something that might surprise you about yourself that you do not expect. And it might send you in another direction, back to self-critique, or saying, wanting to be looser or tighter or whatever. I very rarely hear somebody say, "I can't wait to be tighter." However, that is definitely an option to appreciate that. This is another picture which, in some ways on the face of it, since I wouldn't say so, because I just love those walls and the fading stucco and the cracking this and that. And I seem, as I do a lot with my own work, I seem to have taken this picture with something dead in the middle.
In the middle, yes.
Right. And I didn't finish it. And I wanted to see what I could make out of it. And it is, again, it all comes down to stuffs and surfaces. Surfaces of the stucco, the garden, the pot, which becomes a fun motif, and then I didn't know. And the windows. And who was talking about windows? Jan?
Yes.
Now, what did you say about
I
windows?
start with the window.
Yeah, she starts with the windows. If you know, and some of you may not know Jan's beautiful small paintings that I've seen. You may have done a huge one, but I've seen these beautiful small paintings that are very architectural, something she comes by, honestly. The windows they are eloquent. Windows are eloquent, paths are eloquent, almost on the right, just by definition. They are windows to the soul. You could go on and on and on because they are symbolic. And we use them, and sometimes we use a window setup that you're looking either in or out. These are motifs that are timeless. Look back. Look through the books. Anyway, I loved playing with this, and I had great fun, with generalizing little stuff about the windows. I found almost without exception, when I do something with a photograph, that I try to keep it lighter. Photographs condense everything, and you may walk down a pitfall path if you start too much with the contrast. The contrast can be there, and you might come back and put a lot more, or I might have some bit much darkers. I don't know, darker. But be careful of that, which is also part of the self-critique, where one of the things that I have found myself, and so many people talk about, is I loved the pot was the thing that interested me the most in this setup, or even if you're outside, it's in the real. And you start with it, and then you think, I hate that pot. I have made it much too dark, or too red, or pink, or green, or whatever it is. And there it is, shining like a stoplight in the middle of your painting. That happens so often. Just be careful. That thing you love the most, say it's the iris or the apple. I'm trying to think of gardens, but just be careful about freezing that into such a state that everything else in the first place isn't going to be capable of playing with it or competing.